Hey y'all, I'm back and I have more of your paranormal stories that I'm super nervous to read. I picked out 3 stories and honestly I'm so excited because these seem insane. And we're gonna hop right into it. The first story says, Ghost Girl that wanted me to follow her to the hospital basement. The title alone, we gotta read this. Hey Courtney, just a little side note. I wanted to say I really adore your videos and I enjoy listening to your rambles. Makes me feel like your friend and as if you're actually telling me about your day. I am. I'm also a yapper, so I'll try to keep this short and straight to the point with as much details as I can remember. It is in fact not short. I'm sorry. Okay, so this took place in the abandoned George Air Force Base near Victorville, California. I now live in Texas and still talk about what my group and I saw and what we experienced till this day. There's like a whole city with a hospital, hotel, houses, apartments, theater, and a couple of schools which are all abandoned. I've always been fascinated with the paranormal, so when my sister's boyfriend told me about a whole abandoned city we could go explore, why would I say no? We went to the local dollar store to get flashlights because I was planning on staying there until I saw something. It was a small group of 5 people. The only problem was getting in. The entrance to the place was right across from a huge correctional institution, so there were always cops patrolling and no one wanted a trespassing ticket. Luckily, when we were pulling up to the broken toll gate, there were like 5 cops speeding down the opposite way on what seemed like a high-speed car chase. That was our chance, and we took it. Honestly, it was weird for it to be way too easy to get in that day. We decided to ignore that fact and go hit up the abandoned houses first. It's like a whole maze in there, you can easily get lost. The vibes were like very mid there, so to the hospital it was. When we pulled up, it was very strange. There was like a feeling in the air that kept making me want to look behind me even though I was still in the car. I convinced Alex, my sister's boyfriend, to park directly inside the back of the hospital where there was a hole big enough for our tiny Honda. That way, if a cop drove by, they wouldn't see the car at all and would have to physically come inside the place to see the car parked inside there. My personal mission was to see a basement or a morgue. We walked in and we were exploring the whole downstairs. The place looked like a typical hangout spot for teens. Cans of soda, broken glass, red cups everywhere on the floor. A lot of equipment and paperwork were left behind. As my group and I were in the maternity ward reading some of the leftover paperwork, one of Alex's sisters turned around to get my attention from across the room. She wanted to show me something she had found written on the wall. As soon as she turned to face me, a piece of glass flew from my side of the room directly past her nose and hit the wall behind her. At first, we thought it was his other sister, but they weren't even aware of what happened because they were writing their Insta tags on the wall. It was super weird, but we kind of brushed it off and kept going. I was always taught that if you experience something paranormal, not to pay it any attention and it will leave you alone. Spirits prey on easy targets, and I don't want something getting attached to me. At this point, we needed to use our flashlights. The sun had set already, and we still hadn't found the basement. The group made its way to the front of the hospital doors to get pictures with flash in case we caught a ghost in one of them. As we finished taking a couple shots, a girl comes out of one of the many dark hallways the hospital has and comes out to greet us. It was so weird to me that she came out of nowhere, from the dark. She looked like a normal, friendly person, so we introduced ourselves and I shook her hand. Veronica was her name, and she asked if it had been our first time there. It was painfully obvious that it was, so she asked if we needed a guide because she knew this place like the back of her hand, and we agreed. As she showed us a couple of rooms, I found it strange that she was walking around the place with absolutely no light. It was pitch black in there. It was so strange. She asked if we wanted to see the basement because it was really cool in there. I had asked, "Oh, really? Why? What's in there?" To which she replied, "Oh, you're just gonna have to wait and see." And that did not sit right with me. Absolutely not. I'm like Piglet. I have a high amount of anxiety, so the fact that this random girl that showed up out of nowhere was trying to convince us so hard to go to the basement with her was throwing me way off. I kept declining her offer. She was getting visibly more and more annoyed. I asked her if we could somehow get up to the roof, and she reluctantly agreed to take us because according to her, we would never find the ladders to get up to the roof. She was right. The ladders were behind a random closed door. She walked in front of us, leading the way once again in the pitch blackness of the hospital. Veronica was the first to climb the ladders, me after, and then everyone else. I let her go first because she had been weirding me out ever since she came up to us. I waited for her to get a good amount of distance before going right after her. As I was climbing up, I could hear her take like 4 steps and stop, so I assumed she was waiting at the top, but I was wrong. I came up and she was gone. There was nothing on that roof. Absolutely nothing she can hide behind or in. The rest of the group came up and was kind of unsettled. I was so weirded out and scared that I almost cried. I couldn't believe I shook a ghost's hand. She looked so very real and we all had a conversation with her. There's no possible way I could make that up because I wasn't the only person to see her. Till this day, I have no explanation for this. I always wonder what would have happened if my group and I ventured into the basement with the ghost, Veronica. No, I'm so glad that you didn't go because that is weird as fuck. Even if she's not a ghost, why is she hanging out there alone, no flashlight, in the dark? I don't like it. I would have assumed she was a ghost from the beginning. She's not real. This next story says the creatures in the woods that came into my house. And I want to say really quickly, this is a very long story. I don't know if it's going to focus please. It's a really long story and there's no breaks. If you're going to write me a story, please just break it into paragraphs. It just makes it way easier to read. I'm still gonna read it, but I might struggle. It's fine. That made my camera dark. Why is it so dark? Hope it'll lighten up. Hi Court, been watching your videos for so long and used to be a regular in your Twitch chat. Always wanted to share my stories, but honestly wanted to wait for things to calm down so as not to bring energy to these things. Sorry if this is super long. These events took place over my whole life, so I tried to pull all the scariest parts together while still giving context. To give some background, I've lived in the same house my whole life. It's just outside the city and houses are pretty close together. We totally lucked out to have a forest at the edge of our neighborhood so close to the city, or at least my parents thought. Ever since I was little, when I'd play with my neighbors, we would always be scared to go near the woods. Not even in, we would refuse to get within a certain distance from the woods. There was a specific telephone pole that was our marker. Past that, the eerie feeling was too much to handle. I used to be scared of the dark, scared of everything to be honest, same. So I didn't think much of it, especially because the other kids my age felt the same. We would hear screams, disturbing growling, and even laughing sometimes. It could have just been people or animals, but being near the woods my whole life, I know the normal sounds by now. As a side note to this story, I did used to have a ghost that would watch me sleep while playing a violin, but I don't think it was related to the woods. Like, okay, what? I only bring that up to say I grew up with weird shit and I've always believed in the paranormal. Anyways, back to the woods. As I got older, I became more comfortable in the woods and started going in alone. I ended up starting to walk my elderly neighbor's dogs in middle school. She would pay me to walk them for 30 to 45 minutes at 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. This took place at the 7 a.m. walk. I picked up the dog as normal and we set off to the woods. We were headed our normal route down to the main entrance to the woods, one street over from mine. This entrance has a large paved path that connects down to the trails from the sidewalk. I remember feeling a bit off at the time, but I was still not trusting my intuition at this point. I figured nothing would happen while I had the dogs with me. Started down the path, and not even 20 feet in, I get pulled to a dead stop by the dogs. I follow their gaze and see a group of deer. I smile at first, finding it funny how close to the neighborhood they were. Then my smile faded. Why weren't the dogs barking? I've been walking this same route with them for months at this point, and I know any animal they see, including deer, they go crazy barking and try to go after them, but they were completely frozen, dead silent. Now feeling uneasy, I take another look at these deer. My eyes locked on one of them. It was so off. I don't know how I didn't notice sooner. Its back was curved the wrong way and looked broken. Its legs were stretched in an unnatural stance unlike any deer I've ever seen, and I swear it had an extra set of eyes. I was frozen for I don't know how long, looking at this deer, thinking there's no way this is possible. Then it took a step towards us. I sprang into action. I scooped up the old fat dog and me and the other dog bolted. All I could hear is my mom telling me bad energy can't cross water. I sprinted to the nearest stream and crossed it. The woods were dead silent. I don't know what to think. It all seemed so weird. I also realized no one else was on the trails, which was unusual because everyone's usually walking their dogs around that time. I wander with the dogs, wasting time, and end up deciding to cross the stream again at a different point. I don't know why, such a bad idea. I crossed and it felt like I had earplugs in. This was the opening to the main trails, which are always full of people, and there was absolutely no one. I looked around feeling like I was suffocating on the thick air. Then I heard it. I still can't describe the sound perfectly, but I hear it as clear as the day it happened in my mind. The loudest combination of a gust of wind and a scream, almost like when someone loses their voice and keeps screaming. I cut the walk short and ran back with these dogs, whispering a protection spell the entire way. I survived that day with no further events. I brought this up because it seemed to be when things started to get worse. After years of small experiences, when it hit 2020, things got bad. It being quarantine, obviously, we weren't doing much but being at home. After a bit, I ended up reuniting with a childhood friend, one of my neighbors I used to play with. Our parents let us be in a pod so we could at least see each other. Part of me wishes we never reunited. Let's call her Bella. Bella and I first hung out late at night, I'd say around 1:30 when we snuck out. We were gonna go smoke some weed, my first ever time, so we decided to walk to the edge of the woods. On the way, we were remarking about how we wouldn't go in the woods when we were younger, and even both remembered the specific telephone pole that was our marker. As we passed it, the air felt heavy. We looked at each other, but figured we were just creeped out because we were talking about it. Anyways, We settled at the edge of the woods, probably 2 feet from the sidewalk behind a tree. I don't think either of us wanted to admit how freaked out we were. We smoked, everything was fine, we were having a good time, and all of a sudden we hear a twig snap further in the woods. We get quiet and wait. Then came the most horrifying growl sounding like it was right in front of our faces. We bolted without saying anything. We both heard the exact same thing. I was ready to pee my pants at this point, asking her if it's just because we're high, and she's like, that's not how that works. We wouldn't hear the same thing unless it happened. Great first experience smoking weed, lol. Anyways, we ended up becoming best friends and sneaking out almost every night to smoke. We had many encounters together. I don't get why we kept going back in the woods, but this is when we first started to meet them. I don't know what to call them. Entities? I haven't heard of any experience the same as this except for my neighbors, which we'll get to. We started to see them every night. As the sun would start to go down, we'd begin to hear whispers. They would start poking their heads out from behind the trees. They're almost completely shadow, but not see-through. They look solid. Just a black outline of something close to a human. Some looked more human, others were a bit more terrifying. Either way, I'd be talking to Bella and see a head poke out right behind her. One time, one came right in my face for half a second. Its face felt twisted and wrinkled with age. Its eyes so dark, but still able to be seen compared to the rest of its dark shape. That was the most detail I ever saw of one. They became more and more common. Me and Bella would still go out and watch behind each other for any of these things. We started hanging back in the neighborhood more rather than in the woods. That's when they started to walk around our neighborhood. I hate this. I'm trying to tell myself this is like a no sleep story because I'm gonna throw up. I would see them behind lampposts and bushes. I felt like I was being played with. The worst part was not knowing what their intentions were. Wherever we went, we would see them. Looking back now, I was genuinely afraid to be in my neighborhood and couldn't leave. The worst was when they found where I lived. Me and Bella started spending time in my backyard because we thought it would be more safe from these things. Keyword thought. It started with the whispers and then footsteps and then seeing someone walking towards us. We just ran inside. At this point, we were so used to it, we knew to just leave. We obviously were terrified every time, but we hadn't been hurt, just scared. I wondered if that's all they wanted. Bella ended up needing to stay home for a few days, so I got up the courage to smoke out back, alone. It was all fine for around 10 minutes maybe. I was sitting on the ground watching something on my phone and I looked up for a moment and my heart dropped. There was someone or something on my fence. It was one of those things, but more fully formed than I'd ever seen before. It was in a squatted position on the fence looking down at me. I ran inside sobbing. I was so terrified. In that moment, the way this thing was looking at me, I felt like food. It didn't stop there. It let itself inside. I started waking up seeing that thing standing over my bed every night. I slept with the lights on for probably a year straight after these occurrences because quite literally, fuck that. The memories I'm getting rewriting this, I'm 110% sleeping with the lights on tonight. I ended up talking with my other neighbors, not Bella's family, and they shared the same sightings of these things. At the edge of the woods, and one of them saw one in the house. There's many other small stories that go with this. As far as things now, Bella and I are no longer friends. She moved and I found out some bad things about her and I wondered if her negative energy was feeding these things because after she left, things slowly calmed down. Maybe I stopped paying attention. Maybe when quarantine ended and people came back, these things went into hiding. Or maybe they're still watching me from the trees as I write this. Thanks for reading. Sorry it was long, and I'm not the best writer. Let me know if I should share more of my experiences because I have plenty. I don't know if I can handle more of your stories. I'm gonna be so honest because that was insane. Why is it so dark? I hated that. I hated that, I hated that, I hated that. That felt like a no sleep story. That was nuts. And I have to tell myself that that's not real. I literally have to convince myself. I love telling myself everything I read is true and real and it could possibly happen, but I can't believe this one. I can't. I'm gonna have nightmares tonight. I know I am. Okay, and then the final story. This is why I don't visit my best friend's grave anymore. Hey Courtney, I'm a long-time subscriber. Been watching your videos since I was 19 and I'm now 25. You're honestly my favorite YouTuber. Anyways, onto the story. That's the craziest thing to me. I have so many of you like message me or comment and whatever that you've been watching me for like 7+ years and I'm like, that's unreal. One of my best friends passed away unexpectedly in March of 2020. She was only 21 years old. Of course, it being at the start of COVID, we didn't get to have a normal funeral, so a lot of our friends felt we didn't get to grieve properly. A few months later, I ended up moving apartments to one not even a mile away from her grave. A group of our friends decided to go over to her grave because it was her birthday and we wanted to put flowers there. We take 3 cars to get there. When we got there, a lot of stuff had turned over on top of her grave. A bench, arrangement of flowers, some whatnots, etc. After I straightened up the area around her spot, we sat down just to talk to her for a bit. I have goosebumps at this point, and I'm already looking over my shoulder, feeling like somebody's staring at us. My fiance didn't want to get out of the car, so we left him sitting in the car 5 feet from her grave. My other friend's boyfriend / my brother stood by the car talking to my fiance. One of my friends said we should open the GhostTube app and talk to her. I felt uneasy about it because it was super late at night in the middle of nowhere. There are literally cow pastures for miles around the church where the grave is, but I didn't argue it. So we're sitting there and my friend goes, "Hey girl, you there?" And no shit, the app goes, "Yes." At this point, I'm uncomfortable. I wasn't sure if it was because we're in the middle of nowhere or because I felt like someone's watching us, or if it's because someone just answered us, but I was beyond nervous. We just left the app running and talking amongst ourselves, and my other friend starts talking about how weird it is that her body is literally 6 feet below us. My other friend says, "Kels, if you just started scratching, we're gonna fight." Then the app literally goes, "Try me," which is a very Kelsey thing to be said. At this point, I'm literally tripping out. The app then went crazy and saying names that we all knew. The entire first and last names. It was like Kelsey was asking us about them. And then things went weird. The GhostTube app went crazy. It started saying random names and was not making any sense. At one point it said the name Madeline. I figured it was an odd occurrence that we had actual answers that made sense. I thought it was just bullcrap. My friends and I were walking around while everyone was getting ready to leave, looking at the other graves, and we came upon a grave that said Madeline. And her death date was the same day Kelsey passed away, just a few years before. We obviously freaked out and yelled to the group what we had found. Then we heard a blood-curdling scream. Like, this scream sounded like somebody was being murdered. We all dropped anything that was being talked about or doing and jumped in the vehicles. We were out of there in 5 seconds flat. A few miles up the road, we come to some train tracks we have to go over, and of course, we're all scared. There's a train coming. It's so warm out, we all have the windows down, and as the train is going by, we hear the scream again. When I tell you, as soon as the train was gone, we were too. We all sped to my apartment and my fiance was freaking out. We all get upstairs into my apartment and we start talking about what had happened. My fiance didn't hear the scream. He was literally 5 feet away and my brother was standing right beside him and heard it. He thought we were all crazy, but we all heard it but him. I love my best friend and I miss her every day, but I have no intentions of ever going back to her grave. I don't blame you, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but I don't blame you. I do want to say I'm so sorry for your loss. That's such a horrible, tragic thing to go through, especially at such a young age. I've been with like a friend to go visit somebody that she knew's grave, but I've never really gone to like a graveyard by myself. I've also been to like one in Ohio to see like my grandparents' graves and stuff like that. And I've never really had like super weird experiences in a graveyard, but there was the time I went with my friend. We were literally standing at the grave and it was hot outside. It was like, we live in Arizona, and we felt just a rush of cold air just go past our feet. Like it was just the bottom of our legs that felt it, dude. It was so weird. That shit freaks me out. And oh my God, and it sucks because I'm sure that you want to be able to go back and bring flowers and whatever and just spend time with her. But it's so scary. I don't blame you for not wanting to go back, but hopefully eventually when the memories aren't so, prominent, you can. Well, that's all I have for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any other stories you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit linked down below. Gonna ramble a little bit at the end of this. I said this in my last video, but I was gonna do like a whole rambly video. I'm just saying this now just in case you guys think I'm not gonna talk at the end, even though you can see there's more to the video. I don't know. But I said I was gonna make like a whole rambly video, so I was gonna stop rambling at the end for a while, but I lied. I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. So we're gonna talk a little bit, but I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye. I have never been a reality TV show girl. I've always thought that they were kind of dumb. I know that most of them are scripted, so whatever. We have been watching Perfect Match, or like The Perfect Match, whatever, it's like they just took a bunch of like other reality stars like from different shows and put them in one, and like they're supposed to find like their perfect match. I'm hooked, you guys. I want to watch it so bad. But then like, I was watching it with my boyfriend last night and he fell asleep and I'm like, I don't want to keep watching it. I don't know if he's gonna make me rewind it. I doubt it because I don't think he gives a fuck. Honestly, I think he's watching it because I want to watch it. But one of my good friends is like a reality TV show junkie and she loves that shit. And she put it on just like one day when we were all hanging out like a couple days ago. And ever since then I have wanted to do nothing but watch that show. I don't know what it is. They're addicting. Oh my God, I'm gonna watch every reality show that's ever existed now. I've just always thought they were stupid and drama and whatever, but it's entertaining. Oh my God, it's so entertaining. You guys. I've also, like I said this, I don't even know how long ago that I was addicted to Sudoku. Yeah, that's still going strong. I've played a lot of Sudoku, and so I have the app, just like a Sudoku app. I literally paid to not get ads because I got so many ads and I just wanted to play, and I would get an ad and it would like throw off my groove, you know? And apparently there was like a tournament on the app and I didn't know. Like I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. I'm just playing my games. There was a tournament and it was like, just like obviously high score wins. I was in 4th place without even knowing that it was going on. If I knew that that shit was going on, I probably could have been in 1st. I was in 4th place out of like, I don't know, hundreds of people. And I didn't even know that it was happening. That's just how much I play. I think that's all I've got for you guys because I filmed yesterday. My video from Friday I filmed it yesterday. It's Tuesday when I'm filming this one. I know that gets confusing. At least it does for me. I don't know. I filmed a video yesterday, Monday, and now I'm filming again, so I just don't have as much to say, but I was like, oh my god, I do have a little thing I could share. So I'm gonna go. I love you guys so much. See ya.